to be able to define which direction we want to take and not entirely depend on what these people are contributing.
Well, in what can be termed as an unprecedented move, the Republic of Rwanda has withdrawn its membership from the Economic Community of Central African States. Well, this is coming at a time when Rwanda has been heavily criticized by different organizations and countries of assisting the M23 in Eastern DRC. It is also coming at a time when we are seeing heightened tensions in terms of diplomatic relations between Rwanda and the DRC. In this video, I'm going to read you that statement that was released by Rwanda when it was withdrawing its membership from the Economic Community of Central African States, as well as I'm going to tell you what the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Rwanda has also commented on Rwanda leaving that organization. As well as in this video, I'm also going to tell you about a different strategy that the DRC is now using against Rwanda. Despite the fight in Eastern DRC, we are now seeing a surge of diplomatic wars by the DRC against the Rwandan government. Well, this is Bonafide. If you haven't subscribed, kindly subscribe and hit that notification button so that when I release something new on Eastern DRC, you get notified as soon as possible. Well, Rwanda has finally withdrawn its membership from the Economic Community of Central African States. In a statement that was released by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Rwanda, Rwanda deplores the instrumentalization of the Economic Community of Central African States, ECCAS, by the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, with the support of certain member states. This distortion of the organization's purpose was once again evidenced during the 26th Ordinary Summit held today in Malabo, where Rwanda's right to assume the rotating chairmanship stipulated under Article 6 of the treaty was deliberately ignored in order to impose the DRC diktat. Rwanda has already, in a letter addressed to the chairperson of the African Union, denounced its illegal exclusion from the 22nd summit held in 2023 in Kinshasa under the DRC's presidency. The silence and inaction that followed confirms the organization's failure to enforce its own rules. Rwanda denounces the violation of its rights as guaranteed by the constitutive text of ECCAS. Consequently, Rwanda sees no justification for remaining in an organization whose current functioning runs counter to its founding principles and intended purpose. That is the statement that has been released by Rwanda, noting that it has officially withdrawn from the Economic Community of Central African States, meaning that Rwanda right now is not part of ECCAS. We know that Rwanda is part of different regional bodies, including the East African Community. But right now, Rwanda says that it will no longer be part of ECCAS because it sees as if the DRC is using the chance it has and the influence it has in ECCAS in fighting Rwanda internally. Rwanda, in that particular communique, is saying that it had the right to assume the chairmanship of ECCAS, but in some way there have been some geopolitical moves inside ECCAS that has forced Rwanda not to become the chairperson of ECCAS at this point. And they are saying that they are fed up. Right now, they want to leave that organization because it seems as if DRC has an upper hand in that organization and it is influencing other countries in ECCAS not to follow up on the demands that Rwanda has made thus far. Well, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Rwanda, Oliver Nduhungirehe, was very quick to comment on that particular decision by the government of Rwanda. Part of his statement read that the DRC is still whining around in all regional and international organizations, accusing Rwanda of its own turpitudes, not to mention crying out for sanctions. He further said that Rwanda is engaged in all current peace processes, AU, ESC, SADC, Washington, and Doha, in good faith and with a sense of responsibility, and will never accept the manipulation by a reckless and hopeless DRC of regional economic communities such as ECCAS, which is unfortunately running counter to its founding principles and intended purpose. Those are the sharp, strong words that have been used by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Rwanda regarding the final decision by Rwanda to withdraw from ECCAS, as well as the accusation that the DRC has been using its position and influence in ECCAS to ensure that Rwanda is not progressing in terms of geopolitics internally in ECCAS. As we can note from this particular move, the DRC has been on a spree of fighting against Rwanda. Not only are we talking about the warfare that is ongoing in Eastern DRC, but in terms of geopolitics, the DRC has been very actively fighting Rwanda, even though we have been seeing the ministers of foreign affairs of DRC and Rwanda in Washington signing documents, shaking hands and all. In the background, the DRC is still waging a fierce fight against Rwanda. Because if you look closely, what has been happening in the past few months, if you're talking about the sanctions that have been held against Rwanda, you remember the time that there was supposed to be a negotiations, a direct talk between the Kinshasa government and the M23 in Angola. What came in between was the sanctions that were imposed at the final minute on Rwandan officials as well as the M23 officials that made that particular negotiation not to happen. If you have been very keen, you've also understood that Rwanda has faced massive condemnations from different countries across the world, mostly Western nations, condemning Rwanda of their role in what is happening in Eastern DRC. And of course, these statements are not coming just like that. The DRC is taking a very huge part in pressuring countries to condemn what Rwanda is doing in Eastern DRC. So this is a strategy that is increasingly being used by the DRC to fight the Rwandan influence in Eastern DRC. They know if they cripple Rwanda in terms of geopolitics, then it will be very hard for Rwanda to continue, maybe, as they say, to continue funding the M23 and funding the operations of the M23 in Eastern DRC. The DRC here is sending a clear message that we will not stop until there is calm in Eastern DRC. We will not stop until the M23 has drawn back and let Goma and Bukavu to be under the DRC government. We will not stop because, as we are seeing right now, it just keeps coming. The Rwandan government is on the defense right now. It has been on the defense for quite some time. If you're talking about geopolitics, talk about Visit Rwanda, the brand that Rwanda has been using to finance football teams in Europe. Talk about the condemnations that have come from Western countries. Talk about right now, organizational influence that the DRC is pulling. These are heavy measures against Rwanda that has put Rwanda now to be on the defensive against the strategies that are being used by the DRC. Well, I will keep you informed of the latest of what is happening in Eastern DRC regarding this latest crisis. Keep it bona fide.